Good morning everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. I'm Brian Parks. In this video, I want to talk about how to pick a library when you're working on your code and you need, a third-party piece of functionality, something that someone else has written. And yes, there are definitely some obvious things to look for, like, does it work? Obviously, you're not going to use something that doesn't work. Getting a little more subtle from that, you're looking at things like, how easy is the getting started guide to read? The API documentation. Does it make sense to you? Does it fit with the paradigm that you're looking for? If you're looking for something that's very callback oriented, and the library you find uses promises all over the place, well, you might have to do some extra work to make that work for you. If you can find one that is callback oriented, maybe that'll be an easier win for your project. Or if the reverse, if you're using promises and you find a library that's very callback oriented, obviously you have to wrap that in a bunch of promises in order to be able to use it. There might be another library, potentially one that's been built more recently, that uses promises natively and might be a little bit easier for you to use. Potentially there might be some performance gains from using a library that already works the way you're looking for, that sort of thing. But what I really want to focus on in this video is the more subtle aspects. Because the worst thing that could possibly happen is you're building your project, you intend for it to be very long-lived, you use a library that looks amazing, only to find out that either it's been dead for a while, or in a year or two, when you're just gaining steam on your project, the library falls out of favor, and it becomes a dead project, becomes a stale project, and is no longer getting maintained. So obviously there are a variety of reasons that any particular project can become stale, become unmaintained. It could be maintained by a single person, and they get a full-time job that just takes all their time, and they don't have time to devote to this library. Maybe there's a community built around the library, and for one reason or another, the problem that it's solving becomes less popular. An example of this would be something like Phantom.js. Phantom.js was a very popular headless browser automation tool back several years ago, and then the Chrome project created headless Chrome, so you could actually run Chrome very easily and automate it from within the Chrome ecosystem. So then Phantom.js decided, you know what, this problem no longer exists, and the Phantom.js project is pretty much dead. Everybody's moved over to headless Chrome and Puppeteer, which is the JavaScript library for driving headless Chrome. Things like that happen, and those are really hard to predict, but some of the other things that you can look for to determine if a project is either now or potentially in the future going to still be maintained are things like GitHub stars. How many stars does it have on GitHub? Forks might also be a good metric, but far fewer people are going to fork a repository than are going to star a repository. They'll star a repository because they want to keep track of it. They want to see what happens and when new releases come out and that sort of thing. It means they're probably using it, or they're thinking about using it. One way or another, they want to be kept apprised of what's going on with the project. So that's a good metric of how popular and how vibrant the community around a project is. Another thing to look for is the number of contributors. Now this can be, you kind of have to take this with a grain of salt, because depending on the size of the project, a small project might be fine with a single maintainer, a single contributor, and maybe one or two other people have submitted pull requests. A larger project, you want to see that there's a vibrant community of people maintaining it and contributing to it on an active basis. In that same vein, look at the pull requests, or if the project's on GitLab, it'd be the merge requests, and the recency of commits. If the most recent commit was several years ago, project's probably dead. Tread carefully, use at your own risk. If there are commits that are happening on a daily basis, and I'd say even within the last month or two, if the last commit was in the last month or two, you're probably in good shape, especially if there are open pull requests that are being commented on, and that sort of thing. Another thing you can look at is the issues. If people submitted issues years and years ago and they're still out there and haven't gotten any response, that basically means the project's dead. You're not going to get any support if you run into any issues, and the stability of the project is called into question. But if the issues are all fairly recent, there's good communication on them, some of the issues are tied with new pull requests, and basically if it looks like there is a community both reporting issues, asking for features, and contributing implementations for those features and fixes for those bugs, then you're in good shape. It means the project has a community around it that's pretty strong, probably going to be around a while, again, unless there's some external thing that happens that renders the project unnecessary. So those are all things that you can see on GitHub, and that obviously, if the project is on GitHub, you can see those things. Not all projects have that information on GitHub, so you might have to look elsewhere to get similar sorts of metrics to determine the size of the community, the engagement level of the community, and that sort of thing. Sometimes they have that on the project website, so if you can Google and find the project's website, you can find that information. But ultimately, those are the sorts of things that I look at when I'm trying to find a library or a framework to use. It's is it going to be around long term? Is this something that's worth building my project on top of, leveraging? Because if it's not, and I go to use it and I need to enhance some piece of functionality, and at that point in time I need to use a different library, not only do I have to find another library to do potentially what I'm already doing, but I also have to rewrite all that code that I used to integrate with the first library. So I'd rather pick a library that's going to be around for the long haul, ideally. So hopefully this video was helpful. Feel free to leave comments below if there are other things that you look at when you're picking a library. Feel free to rant about the plane noise in the background. Again, I'm sorry. It seems every day this week, planes are either flying overhead to exit the airport or flying overhead to land at the airport. So I apologize for that. I am working on solutions for that, but I really enjoy doing these videos outside. I really enjoy working outside, so I don't want to change that specifically. But subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, hit that like button, comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.